Hello everyone, my name's MITROPOULOS, and for the entire length of my life I've been thinking about what can I do to make the world a better place. Deep down in my heart I've had this incredible drive to do something special, and I've been waiting for just something to happen so I could believe that this was the right moment for me, and it's happened. I now know this is my time. And I'm going to use this camera and the internet and you, the person who's watching right now, to accept that I've got something that you need to deliver to someone else. Whether you're on the radio, television, have access to the internet, or some other form of media. I want you to help me deliver my message to the masses. Now, I know something that a lot of people don't know, and I hope to explain that to you today. Look, my dream is enormous, and basically I have a whole lot of ideas, but the one I really want to hit right now is I want to change the health of the world. I want to make it a healthier place, and I'm going to do that by changing one life at a time. And today I want to start by changing yours. A lot of you don't know me, but I'm a courageous and generous person. I've accepted that I see the world differently, and I need to explain that to you today. And after I've explained that to you today, hopefully you'll hear my suggestions, and in particular the one on obesity, and how I have a plan to change the obesity crisis or epidemic that's inflicting Australia right now, as well as the rest of the world. But let's start with Australia first, home territory. Look, it's a tough job, and I've chosen to accept it. And I want you to follow me. I intend to reject rejection and embrace resilience. And that's how I'm going to get there. I've asked myself 1,000 times, like, why am I doing this? And the real reason is, I don't know if I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning. And you know what? Neither do you. We only have this moment right now. And I've just got this incredible urge to do this right now. So, because I don't know if I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning, I've chosen this moment to do my bit for you. Because this moment could be my last. My suggestions are very radical. By many, it's going to be deemed to be over the top, controversial, insensitive. I'm going to, press a few nerves and step on a few too many toes by the suggestions that I actually have to make. However, my dream is a dream that needs to be told, so I'm going to attempt to do it now. In regards to obesity, my brain's been bombarded with statistics, as I'm sure yours has too. How often do we turn on the television set or listen to the radio or pick up a newspaper or just open your eyes and look around you, and what do you see? You see a world that's really, really overweight. We eat all the wrong foods, do all the wrong things. Here's that wrong word again. Is it? Oh, maybe, maybe not. Maybe it is. But let's have a look, eh? And we hear the statistics. Now, the problem is definitely growing. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm not going to sit here now like everyone else does and bore you with numbers, statistics and figures. I'm not going to do any of that. I know the problem is enormous. It is huge. Now, you know it's huge too. So I'm just going to get straight to the point. I'm not going to bore you with the stats. I'm going to get straight to the point. Now, chaos, C-H-A-O-S. Now, it will flourish when there's no order. Think about it. When we haven't got order, things go wrong. And they're out of control. But when we have order, things don't go wrong. In this society, and in any society where we're civilized, we must have order. And I believe it's the lack of order in our society today that's enabled obesity to become the enormous problem and epidemic that it now is. Now, society maintains law and order by rules, and we adhere to those rules, and if we adhere to those rules, we have law and order. It's that simple. I've got a few examples I'd like to pass by you, so just consider this first before I get to the nitty-gritty. If you consider tobacco, smoking, for example, if you go back a couple of decades, it was fashionable to smoke. You were sophisticated when you smoked. In actual fact, you looked good. And if you didn't smoke, there was something wrong with you. Now, I come from a generation where most people smoked. You know, luckily I didn't. Oh, sorry, I did smoke, passively that is, right? The smoke of others. And, you know, hopefully I haven't caught any disease that I'll be, you know, unhappy to have, but I'm going to do everything I can to avoid getting that now. But let's look at those, you know, decades ago. It was considered normal to smoke, but today it's not, is it? Things have changed. Now, what is it that's changed? Like, think about it today. If someone was to light up in a group of people and they're not smoking, you'd be frowned upon. So what was once cool, an image of sophistication, let's say, is really now an image of abuse and total disregard in today's society. So just consider this. Imagine a mother right now with a pram, having a cigarette, having a smoke. How would society look upon her now? It'd be very, very different than what it was a couple of decades ago. Now, this social behaviour has changed. And there's a zillion reasons as to why it's changed. Now, you can have your own, of course, but you must admit something has happened and it's caused us to change. It's the social environment that I believe has caused us to change. And if you think carefully, it's peer pressure as well. Now, of course, the government's done an enormous job in trying to educate people about cigarettes and tobacco and the problems with it. Like, look, I don't know about you, but I sit down to eat dinner sometimes. The television might happen to be on, and there's a commercial of this poor person with a mouth that's rotten with cancer as a result of smoking. Now, that is the last thing I want to see. But I don't smoke. I really don't want to see that. But even the people that do smoke, they see that. They might not like what they see, but they still smoke. That's not going to change them. Something else happens that makes them change. They all know they probably shouldn't do it, and it will kill them, just like everything else will on this planet. Even crossing the road will kill you. But that's an accident, right? When you smoke, you put that cigarette to your mouth, you do that on purpose. Now, although the government has made enormous inroads into helping us change, it is not that. You know, we really must understand one thing, and that is that peer pressure alone will move mountains. Peer pressure. And that has what caused this social change in attitude of people that smoke to be considered maybe out of social society, and we're trying to push them out now. Whereas before, we embraced them, and we used to think that people didn't smoke was unusual. So just consider that example for a moment. So it's safe to say that birds of a feather flock together. We've all heard that saying. So we find a lot of comfort in being like everyone else. And so if everyone else begins to change, we will feel the need to change too. And it happens without us even knowing it. Someone must take the lead in this particular problem, and I'd like to take that lead, and I want you to follow me. Now, I want you to understand this. Controls are absolutely everywhere in our life. It doesn't matter which and every way that you look. If you look deep enough, you will see controls. Take the example of a bartender. A bartender has the power to refuse to serve you if they deem that you are intoxicated. They don't use a breathalyzer or a blood test or some other, scientific means. They simply look at you and go, "You've had too much to drink. You can't have any more." Do you know why they do that? Because there's penalties imposed on them. Should they serve you just another drink, which pushes you into that zone of intoxication, and you might so happen to leave the pub or the bar or the restaurant or wherever it is that you may be, and have an accident, a car accident, well, you might have contributed to whatever unfavourable event might have happened as a result of that. Therefore, it's the fact that you're deemed to be responsible that we have these laws to stop us, and therefore we are so afraid of the penalties of those laws that we then say, "No, I'm not going to serve you another drink." So let's look at driving a motor vehicle, for example. There's rules and regulations in driving a motor vehicle. You have a license, there's a demerit system, you have points, you can accrue a certain number of points in a certain time. If you exceed that, you lose your license. It's that simple. So, and also it costs you when you create a offence. if you accrue too many points, you lose your license, so you're not fit to drive on the road. You're not fit to share the road with other motorists and or pedestrians. You are deemed to be, let's say, a danger to pedestrians and other motorists. And until you can prove that you have been rehabilitated from that particular problem that you obviously have, you will not be allowed to drive on the road. Now that penalty might be time, might be money, might be another test. But the fact of the matter is, in alcohol and also in driving a motor vehicle, there are rules and regulations, there are penalties, there's a demerit system, there's a rehabilitation system. They all exist, so we do not inflict danger or can cause bodily harm or injury to anyone or anything as a result of the fact that we are irresponsible. If you take property and liability insurance companies, so think of your home, you know, you have your home and contents and you've got public liability, so if someone comes to your home and hurts themselves, you've got insurance for that, right? But they take into consideration where you live, the sort of dwelling that you have. In other words, they measure risk, and based on risk, they choose whether, one, they'll insure you, and secondly, the premium they're going to charge you based on the risk that they're going to be exposed to. The same happens with life insurance companies, you know, your life. If you're a smoker, overweight, have poor health, you might have a family history, are of a certain age, etc., etc., etc. All these factors contribute to, one, the level of insurance that you'll be offered, and also what the cost will be for that insurance if you're offered it at all. So, of course, someone who's in perfect health, is young, has no family history of any modern disease or anything like that, will probably be given life insurance. But if you're older, you have a few health issues, a couple of risk factors like obesity would be one, blood pressure, maybe diabetes, heart disease, and all these other sorts of things that inflict our population, well then you might not even be offered life insurance. So there is risk in everything. If you go another step further, just have a think about what you watch on television, what you listen when you play a CD, and what you read. There's age groups. There might be a P or a G or an M or an R rating on a movie, for example. When you pick up a CD, there might be an R rating on that which says that this particular CD might contain, language that might be offensive to certain people, etc. Okay, there are warnings everywhere. There are controls even in that. So we are cautioned to read these warnings, so therefore we don't see inappropriate information. In other words, there are warnings all along the way. Some content is deemed to be suitable for some and not for others. And the reason why that is, like imagine you watch a movie and you see people running around and doing inappropriate things with other people who are underage, for example, or yield a gun or some sort of weapon and, continue on in life bludgeoning people to death, or taking a motor vehicle and speeding and doing all these sorts of things which result in injuries, etc. A young person, for example, or someone deemed to, let's say, not be mature, but usually it's related to age, that's why I said a young person, they would not be, if they're young, they would be considered to might be influenced as a result of the images that they see and the words that they hear. They might not be able to tell the difference between what's real and what is not. And this is why there are ratings, to protect us as our minds mature. Now, we anticipate that by the time you get to an adult age, and for drinking alcohol, it's 18, and it depends on which part of the world you're in, of course. Some start as early as 16, some go as late as 21. Most countries sit around 18, and Greece is the only country at 17. But anyway, there are laws, etc., which exist to protect us. To say that when you get to this point, this particular age, it is reasonable for us to assume that you have achieved a certain level of maturity that will enable you to exist and participate in our society and follow all the rules that we have in order to maintain some level of existence which is civilized. So, it's fair to say then that if we can adhere to the rules that are there in front of us, we can maintain balance in our lives. Okay? And that's the whole point of it. So let's look at the example of driving a motor vehicle. If you drive a motor vehicle and you do something wrong, you get booked. Okay? You lose a couple of points, or you accrue a couple of points. As soon as you accrue too many, you might lose your license. There's a penalty system there. Let's say you do something bad to someone else. The worst thing that can possibly happen to you is you might be put in jail. So people deem your existence in society to be such a threat to society itself that they remove you from it. So there's one extreme. So there are controls in all our lives. It is imperative that we maintain control. And in these examples that I've just given to you, if we do not maintain control and we are deemed to be a threat to the remaining people or the rest of civilized society or property, we are removed from it. And by being removed from it, we are kept away until such time as we are rehabilitated to the point where we can then rejoin society. So it's fair to say that rules, regulation, order must be maintained in order to have balance, in order so everything works and everyone is safe. So now I've established the foundations of my argument in a way. Okay, there are controls for everything. I want you to consider somewhere where there are no controls. If I was a 7-year-old child and I walked up to a counter of a fast food store and I said, can I have a quarter pounder with double cheese, large fries and a large carbonated beverage. I don't want to mention any names, of course, right? It's pretty hard not to do that, right? But you know exactly what I'm talking about. Fast food outlet. And I just handed over my money. Now, even though the calories in that meal would exceed what I would need an entire day, and would probably be what would be sufficient for an adult to consume in an entire day, I can consume in one meal. And that person over the counter has no problem at all giving me that meal. They will gladly take my money from this 7-year-old and give me this food. Now, that food is well in excess of the recommended allowance of fat, protein, carbohydrates, salt, and basically it's too much food for a 7-year-old, and the balance of nutrients is out of whack. Yet there are no controls when I'm given that meal. Nor are there any controls if I happen to be very, very overweight. I clearly am overweight, yet I turn up there and I ask for food, and I'll be given it. Now, I might order 5 burgers or 3 or 2 or 1, or just be there for breakfast, lunch and dinner. And you know that, like they know, that that food is inappropriate for me to eat every single day. But it's not their problem. But what I'm trying to say is that there are no controls in that. The only person who controls that is you. But in everything else we do in life, in civilized society, controls exist to stop us. I just used the example of a 7-year-old child. Now, I'm sure you've been in that situation or have seen it. So the fact remains, there are no controls in fast food companies. When I turn up to purchase a meal, I am not rejected at all whatsoever. I'm not, like if I was being served alcohol, someone would look at me and say, look, you're too young, I can't serve you. Or, look, I'm sorry, you're too intoxicated, you can't, I'm not going to offer you another drink. Or, excuse me, sir, you've obviously had too much to drink, can you please step out of the vehicle? Or, excuse me, sir, you're shouting too loud, you're becoming obnoxious, and we don't tolerate that sort of behaviour in this environment. We have all these controls, right? But not for food. So I'd like to suggest this. Any expert will tell you, and I'm sure you've heard it before, that the diseases that we predominantly suffer from today are lifestyle diseases. Diseases that we inflict upon ourselves by eating too much, usually of the wrong food, and moving too little. And a lot of the diseases we have today can be avoided if we were to change that. So here's the big one now. I'd like to suggest a user pays strategy. So what that means is this. When we look at healthcare, for example, fast food, cigarettes, alcohol, when we look at all those products, we don't need those. Yet those products contribute to the epidemic that we call obesity today, and the poor health of the majority of people. Now, at the end of the day, you might say, I'm not in poor health. Really? Really, you're not in poor health? What, is it normal at 40 to have trouble sitting on the ground and getting back up? Is it normal at 40 to have trouble walking? Have a look around you. The majority of people have trouble doing basic things. The government recommends, what is it, 10,000 steps a day? How many people do 10,000 steps a day as an average? That means 70,000 a week. I didn't say you went for a walk today and you did 10,000 steps and wow, I've done my minimum. No, that is an average every day of the week to maintain basic health. The fact of the matter is the majority of people in this country and most other countries are not doing it. So because of this lack of control, if people continue to do this, the rate of growth of the issues that we need to deal with from a health perspective will continue to grow relative to how much lack of control we have in what we eat and how we move. So it's fair to say that in the event that we do not control our eating habits and our exercise habits, we'll continue to get unhealthier, which means we'll have a greater burden on the health system, which means the ones that are unhealthier are going to need the health system more. So why don't they pay more for that? And the ones that are healthy pay less. But how does this happen? How do we do that? Well, I've got a pretty good solution for that. But in order to first choose who, we need to have a plan. So the example I've brought up, what have I called it here? Yeah, that's right. It's called the annual health inspection. So what I'm suggesting is this. Annually, we all, every single citizen, turns up to our local GP and we do a basic health assessment. Now, what does that involve? That involves a measurement of your waist, a measurement of your weight, and your body fat percentage. I'm sure there are other means. Everyone's heard of the BMI and all that sort of stuff, but that stuff is ludicrous when it comes to someone who's healthy and exercises and not normal, because they're not normal people. Most people don't exercise and most people don't eat healthy. And therefore, someone can be of the right height and they're 5 kilos too heavy because they have more muscle in their body than an average individual. And so the BMI would say to that person who looks fine and has healthy blood pressure and all the other things that we measure health by would be in the overweight range. And we know that's all wrong. So a more realistic view is to take someone's waist measurement, the girth, circumference. You do a skin fold test. In other words, you measure the folds of their skins. Now, if they have folds of skins, you need to have excess fat. So you're measuring fat. And, of course, you measure their weight. And those three things combined will determine whether someone needs to do something for their health or whether they shouldn't. Assuming, and I can come up with all those figures if you want, assuming that test is actually done and you are deemed to be in the unhealthy group, okay, well that means then that you would be encouraged to lose weight in terms of fat, and that'll be done by referring you to a nutritionist or a dietitian or a suitable person that will educate you in what foods you should eat, which I can tell you that now, and I will later on. When that education is then done, the onus is up to you then to do something about it. Now, as we know, we can't force you to do anything. And of course, we all have the freedom to choose. And I'm not saying take that away. I believe all fast food stores should continue to exist. I don't believe we take anything that we have in this country away today, ever. We should have the choice to be able to utilise it. It's about being responsible when we utilise it. We all have fast cars, but it doesn't mean we all drive fast, do we? We all have cars as a weapon. We don't run people over, do we? We might have guns as a sport. We don't walk around shooting people, do we? So it's all about being responsible. So those that are in that unfortunate category are going to be encouraged to exercise, eat regularly, and have irregular checks with their GP to check their progress. Now next year, the same sort of time, they will do this again. They'll go back again and they'll do another check. The objective is to move towards your goal. If they're still considered to be that way, well then they'll still be encouraged to do these things. Now this is where the crux is, okay. They're just simply told that they're overweight or unhealthy or outside a healthy range. They're not labelled as anything wrong. There's no penalties or anything. Now, where I'm suggesting we make changes is, I believe, on all fast food, and I'll list all the stuff for you basically, on all fast food and all foods that we shouldn't eat, and I'll cover that, right? There should be a tax, a substantial tax. And that tax will be imposed on all those foods. So if I choose to have foods that I know are not good for me, or I choose to smoke a cigarette, or I choose to consume alcohol, yes, alcohol, well then, the tax will be quite high on those items. And that tax, the amount, will go to a fund. So it's like a goods and services tax, but for everything that we should not be doing. And everything we should be doing doesn't have that. And the reality of life is that already exists today. And I'll cover that shortly. So this tax goes into a fund, and that's used to provide health care for everyone. It's a user pay strategy. Now, the Australian government has a system called the GST, the Goods and Services Tax, okay? Now, when they did that, they made certain foods exempt. Now, these are foods that we must have. Now, I've just written this down. And they call it the most basic food for human consumption should be GST free. And these foods are, I'll just read these out to you. They include fresh fruit and vegetables, raw unsalted nuts, spices, rice, pasta, meats, as long as they're fresh, chicken, whole fresh fish, canned fish, eggs, cheese, fats and oils, soup, bread, infant formula, breakfast cereals, simple breakfast cereals, milk, tea, coffee, sugar, fruit and vegetable juice, but it has to be at least 90% minimum volume by juice. So the government's already gone out now and they've made this list. Now, if you eat that, if you eat those foods, you will be healthy. Now, think of what I said. Now, you can still go to the government, I'm sure there's a website somewhere, and you can look at the list of foods that are exempt and the ones that aren't. Now, they've already listed the foods that are good for us. Fruits, vegetables, lean meats, nuts, seeds, grains, the healthy oils, all that sort of stuff, the fish, it's all there. That's what we should be eating. So they're already GST free. All I'm suggesting is let's increase the tax on all other foods, all alcohol, all tobacco, and anything that is not in that list. And that money will then go to creating this fund, which will now provide the care. Cool? Look, put simply, you cannot expect to lose weight, yeah, or be lean if you continue to eat foods that come in a packet. That's a big statement. Now, companies that make food that come in packets are going to have beautiful labels on them and all these little stickers and bullet points and highlights that are going to suggest that their food is high in this and high in that and low in this and low in that. But the reality of life is they're trying to sell that product to you. And if you believe that, well, buy it. But when you look in the mirror and you see what you look like, you will quickly know that it's not working for you. Don't get fooled. You know, there's no packet food that's healthy. It's all manufactured. There's something added to it to preserve it. Eat the stuff that's listed on the GST free list and you will never look back. Now, I challenge anyone, in actual fact, I challenge everyone to do that. Stop eating packet food, stop your fast food, and watch what happens. Like, as a general rule, I have a way that I like to describe, and I say you can eat anything that grows in the ground or comes from anything that grows in the ground. So think about that. It's a plant, right? So potatoes, they grow in the ground, like under the ground, right? And vegetables are plants and they grow out of the ground. Fruit comes from trees, yeah? Nuts, grains, seeds. Think about it. You can eat any of those. So anything that grows in the ground or comes from anything that grows in the ground, and anything that runs, swims or flies. or comes from anything that runs, swims or flies in its simple and purest and as natural state as you can get it. Of course, you know, personally, I'm not going to eat insects and stuff like that, so you know what I mean by that. So I don't mean insects, but even though some countries do eat them, I'm suggesting anything that runs, swims or flies, okay? Now, if you eat like that, what I'm suggesting is you do this. I'm suggesting you get your annual health check done. If you're deemed to be in that particular group, or whether you're not, you should still be leading a healthy lifestyle. And you should be exercising more and eating right. Eat from the list of foods that the government's provided for us, which we all know, yeah? And the ones I've just described now. Now, I'm suggesting you do that for 5.5 days a week. 5.5 days. And the other day and a half, do whatever you want without guilt. Because when you do it for 5.5 days out of the week, your body's going to change. And the things that used to taste great aren't going to taste as good as what they used to, because your body begins to repair itself. You get healthier. You can't tolerate that stuff anymore. And in the first few weeks, you'll be disappointed because what you used to like no longer tastes like what it used to. And you get, you know, disappointed with that, and you start searching for healthier food. And I know it's hard to accept now, but food provided by nature tastes great, but we forget what that taste is like. So that's what we're going to end up doing. So 5.5 days on, 1.5 days off. So think about that, Monday to Friday and up till about lunchtime Saturday. Now most of us have a weekend, so have half of Saturday off and all of Sunday, do whatever you want. I suggest you exercise at least 6 days a week. 6 out of the 7 have the Sabbath off or Sunday off, and do whatever you want for those 1.5 days. When you look at those ratios, yeah, just think about it, there's 52 weeks in a year. There's 1.5 days, right? So 52 times 1.5, what's that? That's 52 and 26, that's 78. So out of 365 days, you'll be eating badly or doing whatever you want for those 70 odd days. The remainder, you'll be eating very healthy. You're going to win. It is inevitable. You're going to look very different to what you look like now. That's a good thing, right? 5.5 days on, 1.5 days off. Remember that. Now, if you choose to do this, you will succeed. But if you fail to do this, you will ultimately fail. It is inevitable. And we can measure failure in many ways. You're either going to be healthy or not. And if you're not, that's your particular problem. Now, of course, I understand, you know, genetically we have a disposition to certain illnesses, etc. That simply means that you need to pay greater attention. It doesn't mean you're exempt. You need to pay greater attention to it. Okay, so the choices you make in life will always be yours. You make those choices. No one forces you to make those choices. And the consequences of those choices are going to be something that you need to deal with. Because you made them. You can't blame me or the person next door or the doctor or someone you saw on TV. It's just you. Only you. So you are responsible for every choice that you make. So, as I say here, I've just written this down because it's really important. You and you alone are a product of what you believe, and consequently, what you choose to do. So make your choice and be prepared to reap the rewards or pay dearly. I'll read it again. You and you alone are a product of what you believe, and consequently, what you choose to do. So make your choice and be prepared to reap the rewards or to pay dearly. You and you alone are responsible. And the sooner you accept that, the better life's going to be for you and for everybody else. Now, drastic times call for drastic measures. And obesity is getting worse by the minute. So we need to make some pretty radical changes. The response needs to be immediate and economically viable, with the responsibility, as I said before, lying in each and every single one of us. Yeah, we have to take responsibility now. We cannot anymore rely on the government to take control. You need to make the choice. You need to allow everyone, just like we did for smoking, yeah? Everyone to understand this. And the sheer social peer pressure that we're going to experience is going to encourage us to change. You need to look in the mirror and look what you look like. And if you don't look the way you want to look, well then make a change. But if you do, well, great, you don't need me anymore. Only you know the truth. All I'm asking you to do is to be honest, be brutally honest. Look, obesity is caused quite simply by eating too much and moving too little. Now, we all know exactly what we should eat. So don't play dumb. You know perfectly well what you should be eating. You know, there's no perfect mix of protein, carbs and fats. That's already been done by nature. Eat those foods and it'll all be done for you. Now, you know what you should eat. So change that. You change what you eat. Do what you know, 5.5 days on, 1.5 days off, and you will love the results. It's a choice we make many times each day, yeah? And that choice has a cost, yeah? But it's now time to pay up. You need to pay. You can't live in debt for the rest of your life, yeah? You must pay up now. The current trends cannot be sustained. And it's inevitable that a change is absolutely necessary, right? Like, the time has come. Let's not look at the numbers anymore, statistics. It's big enough for us to have to make a change. Now, I have the solution to this as well as many others. Now, if you want to hear my ideas on many things, you just got to let me know. Now, in regards to obesity, I want to change the world. I want to change your life. I want to change the lives of others. But you need to help me. Come along for the ride. Do as I say. Obesity is an illness that needs to be cured immediately. It's not bad luck, yeah? It's not bad luck. It's a bad choice. So stop making bad choices. Okay, in finishing, my name is ConikiTV. Remember that name. It's going places. And I apologize if I've offended you in any way. However, sometimes you need to be brutally honest in order to be totally honest. So I'm not saying this to be rude. Look, I really care. I really care. My heart is driving me to do this. And I care so much. And those of you that know me know that. So I need to tell you the truth. You might think my ideas are ludicrous, as I said before, but they will work. Guaranteed. I'd encourage you to change your mind first, change your body next, and change your life forever. I'm on a mission to change the world by making it a healthier place. I save lives one at a time, and today I'd like to save yours. I would like to address the masses through the media and invite all opportunities. This is a formal invitation now and a request to anyone out there that's got a little bit of power in the media to do so. So if you can help me in any way to get my message across, if you're in government, if you're a leader, I can talk to the people. I've got the solutions. Listen to my ideas. I have a website that you can go to. It's called www.ConikiTV.com. It's probably just on the bottom of your screen now. You can get in touch with me through there, basically. What you'll see, I do everything for free. There's no gimmicks. There's no hidden agenda. There's no cost. Take advantage of the opportunity I'm giving to you now. I'm ConikiTV. Thank you for listening to me. Get in touch.